Howdy y'all, Alexander here, High Winds EDC, and today we're going to be getting into a video that has been my most requested video to date, and that is head to head, which would I choose? The Koenig Arius or the Reeves Umnumzaan? We're going to go through that. So I don't necessarily have my mind made up. What this video is here to do is we're going to go through the list of, from beginning to end, things like price, ergonomics, action, steel, all this other stuff, heat treat, performance, and everything like that. We are going to discuss, and I'm going to come to that conclusion right in front of you as we're doing this, and we're going to do it objectively. All right. So first things first is the price. Reeves Umnumzaan retails for $450 now. It is an S45 steel, and the price on the Koenig Arius is this one retails for, I believe, $850, maybe $800, I'm not too sure. So either way, there's going to be a $350 to $400 price gap. So to me, I don't necessarily think more is more. I sometimes in this particular cases, less is more. So for the pricing, we're gonna have to go ahead and go with the Reeves Umnumzaan, just on because it's cheaper compared to an Arius. Now, you know, depending on which version you get, those price ranges vary, especially if you have a rare Reeves Umnumzaan with like a Wilson Combat starburst pattern or something like that, or if you get an Arius in Magna Cut, you know, stuff like that. Then we're going to talk about presentation, and this is really cool. I actually was really excited to talk about this portion. You have two really good knives presented in a very pleasant way. Once you start getting into spending a certain amount of money, presentation matters, because you don't want it just to come in a Spyderco box. I spent $450 on this Slish buoy, and I spent $450 on this. This compared to a Spyderco black and red Spyderco box with a little slip that says, "Here's the Slish buoy. It's been revivified by Knife Joy." It's like, come on, man. I need something else. So with this one, you get a very nice, firm cardboard box. You get a well oversized microfiber cloth. You get a certificate of authenticity in this nice envelope that has the certificate of authenticity, the date of birth. You get a nice sticker. You get a little like how to disassemble. Like, that's cool. And this is nice, and it's in this nice little card stock. And then as well, the particular gentleman that I bought this one from, he bought the, I guess he got the extra backspacer assembly stuff. So that's really cool. That was kind of thrown in for me. I have my own lanyard on this one that my wife got me for Christmas. So, and then you get the disassembly stuff, right? And so that's really cool. Cover it back up, put it back together, and then with something like the Koenig Arius, you get another really nice box, cardboard box. But I like this one because it's got the magnetic box opening, and that matters. You do get a certificate of authenticity, and you get a really nice microfiber cloth, and that's it. So we're gonna have to go ahead and give the ding ding to the Umnumzaan. And so for now, we have 2 points Umnumzaan, 0 Arius. And the reason why is because the Reeves knives, they give you the hardware, and I feel like that really encourages you to take it apart. Now we're going to talk about the next thing, which I haven't experienced with either of the companies. We're going to talk about warranty, and I feel like both of the warranties are really good. If there is an error on the part of the company, on the part of the manufacturer, they stand behind their product, both of them equally, and that's what's top notch. The fact that Reeves Knives sends you hardware to disassemble your knife, I feel like that lends you a little bit more credence to say, hey, you can take apart your knife. We're not gonna throw it out the window when you send it back to us because you're having issues with reassembly or something like that. They even say, if you can't put your knife back together for some odd reason, send it to us. we'll put it back together for you. Whatever part you might be missing or need or is messed up, we'll replace it for you for a small fee, you know, $10, $15, $20 for screws, washers, stuff like that. We'll put it back for you. And that's awesome. That's like, that makes you feel a little bit more confident with a warranty like Chris Reeves knives. However, we're not going to get into the aftermarket warranty. If you Cerakote or if you re-anodize stuff and they don't want to cover that, that's actually really smart, because they're saying to a certain extent, this is your knife and you can do whatever you want with it. We're not going to ask any questions. But once you go start tinkering with our tolerances and stuff like that, maybe that's not such a good thing for them to have to cover through their warranty. And that's fair. That is fair at the very least. Next, we're going to get into sort of the nitty gritty, which is going to be the blade steel, 20 CV versus S45VN steel. Now, I am not a metallurgist, so before we get into talking about that stuff, I don't have any experience with metallurgy or anything like that. So what we're gonna have to do is just gonna talk about the blade steel and M390 versus S45VN. We see a lot of M390. We don't see we're seeing a lot more S45VN. Chris Reeves has got a higher heat treat on their S45VN than their S35VN, which is really good. Yeah, really ups the hardness, doesn't make it as soft. And then Outpost 66 already did the side-by-side comparison to our Koenig's MagnaCut versus their 20 CV, and their 20 CV was like crazy. It cut for a long time. It cut cardboard for a very long time, but it cut as expected. You know what I mean? Like their heat treat is like right on point to where you want an optimal M390. But for me personally, I don't know how tough M390 is, or 20 CV, or any of those other things. I need a tougher steel, and I remember reading a chart, and I do believe S45 is slightly tougher because I am a little bit hard used, so that's going to make me go more towards the Umnumzaan. We'll talk about action next. Action goes to the Arius. I'm sorry. So that's one for Arius, and you cannot deny that. The action is just, look at that. It's quick, it's fast, it rides on bearings. And one thing about the plastic ceramic or stainless steel bearing composition that this one has, I think it kind of helps you keep the bearings clean a lot longer, especially with how tight the tolerances are to begin with. So like, obviously it's not on washers, but the way it's built makes it better than most knives that are running on bearings. So yeah, we'll talk about the lockup and lock deployment. I'm gonna give, so that's what, three Zaan, one Arius. We're gonna talk about the lockup and the disengagement of the blades, and that one goes to the Arius as well. This feels like a feather, but the detent is still so dialed in, I can't just break the detent. Like look at my veins. I'm putting a lot of force on this, but it's not breaking the detent, and that's good because the detent's dialed in. When I first got the Umnumzaan, I almost sold it because of how bad it messed up my thumbs and how much of a callus it put whenever I would go to disengage the lock. So, 2 Arius, 1 Umnumzaan. We're going to talk about the handle, the way they look, the way they feel, and I gotta say, it's gotta go to the Arius again. Why? Well, this is a very basic pattern for the Umnumzaan. It's kind of like this crosshatch pattern, and it's really nice. But the bead blast, or whatever blast that they use that's standard on these Umnumzaans, is very like rough and textury, and honestly, it feels kind of like sandpaper sometimes. But the Koenig Arius, it's nice and knocked down, and it's kind of got some of these like nice. This one's textured, so it's really nice, and it's not too aggressive. There are no hot spots really. Even the clip isn't a hot spot. So yeah, but they're both made out of the same type of titanium. How can one be less than the other? It's very weird. Also, the inside of the Arius is milled out on the inside, so it reduces the weight of the handle, whereas this is like big and bulky, which that doesn't faze me. That's not an aspect that phases me. However, I can see why it would go to the Arius. So 2 Arius, 3 Zaan. I will say that I do like the what is this? Not the lock bar relief. What do you call this? The over travel stop is a lot cooler on the Zaan than this one, but that's not going to be a big factor. We're going to talk about pocket clips next. And again, I think the Arius wins on the pocket clip factor, not because it's more deep or anything like that. Forget all that stuff. Forget deep pocket carry clips for a minute. But I would say that if that was the case, well, we'll get into that later. Never mind. The pocket clip on this rocks because it is ready to go. It's just ready to go, slides in and out very easily, and it doesn't chew up your pocket, whereas this one is like a little hacksaw because of the edges on the inside. So there is that. So let's talk about ergonomics. The ergonomics on the Umnumzaan, they place your finger right here. You cannot choke up on the blade. Pinch grips are really nice. The only thing that I would say are hot spots sometimes is this crosshatch if you're working really hard, but wear gloves. It's very neutral for the most part, but you do have this area right here where it does try to place your index finger and hold it there. Ergonomics on the Arius are actually better because you can like really choke up right here. You can't choke up on the blade unless you have very, very tiny fingers, and I have small hands and I still can't do it. So yeah, you cannot choke up on either of these. That's why they have a no flipper or a flipper delete Arius that's available to people. I like the dump truck, and because of how light the handle actually is, because of the internal milling that I talked about earlier, we're gonna have the Arius. So that's 3 and 3. We're doing pretty good, especially with these two high production knives. So ergonomics, the Arius wins. We are gonna talk about blade, the actual blade, not the blade steel like I mentioned before, but the blade shape and all this other stuff. I feel like utilitarian purposes, the Arius should win out on that one, but for me personally, this one's going to come down to actual preference. I love a good Tonto. I love this Tonto because I love CRK's Tonto because they kind of market it as like it's a scraper. It's not a traditional bevel that we usually have on like this primary bevel. This Yacote is a lot thicker and it comes back a lot further, and it just looks cooler. It's very mean looking. It looks like it's ready to get after it. And they both have a hollow grind, right? This one is made for piercing and it's very thin behind the edge once you get to the tip. This one is not so much because this one is made to be worked into like stabbing into a sandbag and cutting through, cutting into a bag of Quikrete. Don't do that with your knives, guys. Just use the shovel. But you guys know what I'm trying to say. So for actual work purposes, which is what I do, I'm gonna give it to the CRK Umnumzaan. So that's the Tonto. Let's talk about, they both do have this lanyard option, but this one is more of a permanent one and this one's optional, but you do have to buy like a second stop pin in order to cover up the lanyard. So I would give the lanyard positioning to CRK because it's optional, whereas this one is kind of forced on you. That might be a good thing. So we talked about everything else. Now we're gonna kind of get into the vague and foggy. So next would be heirloom factor. And I feel like both of these have really strong heirloom factors, very strong. So like if on a scale of 1 to 10, both of them are like anywhere from 9 to 10. So like 9.5, 9 it's very tough to call. But for me personally, this is a work knife that I would love to give my son one day, the Chris Reeves Umnumzaan. Whereas this, I can kind of like, I don't know, I can see myself selling it or something like that. The Umnumzaan definitely does have a heirloom factor that is a little bit stronger than the Arius, and feel free to debate me about that on the comments. I know where I stand on it for the most part, so we're gonna go Zaan. So now we're what, 5 Zaan, 3 Arius, round about there. Let's talk about just other accoutrements. The Umnumzaan comes with a built-in glass breaker, or as I like to call it, a detent breaker. For whenever you're learning how to use it, you can use it to break the detent, but it is supposedly a glass breaker, which I've never used it before. Haven't had a need to, but if I ever need to, I've got one. This one has not very many accoutrements at all. So we're gonna have to give it to the Zaan. Just objectively speaking, like I did get into a little bit of the vague and foggy with the heirloom factor, but yeah, for me, objectively, the Umnumzaan is a much better knife because you're paying less, getting about the same materials, maybe not blade steel, but you're getting a good warranty. You're getting, I guess, what would you say, that Chris Reeves in the knife community, you either love him or you hate him, and I'm not a Chris Reeve fanboy. I love Chris Reeve knives, I love a lot of the aesthetics of them, but I only own one, so I can't sit here and call myself a Chris Reeves fanboy, even though I do like the aesthetics of the CRK knives more than I do Koenig's, because Koenig has Arius and the Mini Goblin, and maybe, I don't know if they have any other anymore. But the aesthetics of Chris Reeves knives just appealed to me a little bit more on that factor alone. Maybe you could call me a fanboy, but I'm honestly not, because I'm not all up their butt cracks. But yeah. Oh, I also do like the over travel stop. I think I did mention that. It does have a lock bar interface with the ceramic detent ball that suffices as the detent and the lock bar insert. Yeah. So anyways, there is that. Minimal hardware on both of these knives, which is really cool. This one has the minimalist of the hardware. It's only got 2 on this specific one, which is fine because the tolerances are so good. The tolerances on both, I would say, are amazing, but the tolerances have to go to the Koenig Arius. The tolerances on this one are way better than the Chris Reeve knives, Umnumzaan. And they're both made in Idaho, so that's actually a negative for both. But anyways, guys, this is a fun video. It was asked of me what would I choose on both of these knives, and I choose the Chris Reeves Umnumzaan, and you'll kind of see why that is if you watch my full review of the Koenig Arius, and this because the Koenig Arius in my heart is a placeholder. It's like, here you can have a good knife. It's going to be very well rounded, you can trust it, it's made in the US, and the Arius is just such a really good knife. Like, it's top tier for sure for me, because I haven't handled very many customs. That's, you know, production level Arius is probably GOAT. I don't know. That might be a controversial thing to say. But anyways, it's a placeholder in that if I have to offload it because of either one of these knives, I can offload very quickly because the market for them is so high. Like, the market is there for them to be resold on the secondary, and you won't be losing too much money. But the Arius is a much higher placeholder because the value is like, what, almost half of the Umnumzaan. So there we go. It's a placeholder for me. And after getting out of the honeymoon phase of the Arius, I can say that with clarity. If I ever sold it, I would definitely regret it, and I'd want another one. But that's happened to me before. It's happened to me with Sleesh Bowie. It's happened to me with my Demcos. Like, I miss them. It happened to me with my Chavez 229. I should never have traded that one for a Hoback now that I go back and rethink. But it's okay. I love the Hoback. It was a really nice, the Hoback Radford. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on this tangent. I really appreciate it. Really, really do. Thank you for watching. What are your thoughts? I really do want to hear. What would you choose over one over the other, Zaan or Arius? And please forgive me for my math. I wasn't keeping up too. I should have put a piece of paper down so that way I could jot down everything. But yeah, you guys got to see this journey with me. I appreciate that. All right, y'all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.